So good afternoon, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the fourth and last workshop during this semester of the Medical Research Volunteer Program MRVP. Today's workshop is entitled Basics of Statistics in Medicine and will be delivered by Dr. Hani Tamim. Dr. Tamim is actually my partner in crime, literally. Dr. Tamim and I serve as directors of the MRVP. Dr. Hani Tamim is the director of the Biostatics as well, the Biostatics unit at the Clinical Research Institute, CRI, and is associate professor at the Faculty of Medicine at AUB. He earned an MPH degree from Emory University in 1995 and a Doctor of Philosophy degree in Epidemiology and Biostatistics from McGill University in 2003. Dr. Tamim has more than 200 publications in peer-reviewed medical journals. His professional expertise includes but is not limited to research methodology, data management, analysis, and reporting. Dr. Tamim, the floor is yours.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So thank you very much, my partner in crime. I'm happy to be presenting the last presentation for the series for the MRVP. I will be doing the presentation. I already have this one. I will be doing the presentation along with Ms. Aurélie Mayak. She also has a BS in Nutrition, Masters in Epidemiology and Biostatistics, and she has been working with us for the past 3 years. She has extensive expertise in data analysis, so I will be sharing the presentation with her. So the presentation is going to be a little bit interactive. Who has their phone with them? Everybody has their phone? Their mobile? Okay. As I have been instructed that phones are not allowed in Dr. Bilal's presentations or classes, but because I love him so much and I want to do something different, so I'll ask you to be using your phone during the presentation. I'll be asking you questions. I'll help you. We will tell you what we need from you. We would like you to go on your phones to a specific website, enter a certain code, and answer some questions that we have for you. So along the line, we will be talking to you about this. So I will start by giving you an overview of research process. I think Dr. Samal Taba last week has mentioned something about the overview of research process, but again, I'm going to re-emphasize it because it is important and it is directly related to the work of volunteers in medical research. Okay? So, number one, the first step in any research project will be to turn your idea into a research question. So no matter how complicated the idea is or the question is, you have to end up with a very specific, straightforward, answerable, concise statement that represent the research question that the researchers are interested in. And this will be dependent on what has been shown or what has been done in the literature, what is known, what is unknown, the impact of this question, and so on. The second step is going to be the second part is going to be the literature review, and this was the topic of the second session that we have delivered to you by Ms. Aida Farha, who showed you how to do an effective literature review. And it is a very important step in any research project because unless you are able to know what has been done, how was it done, and who did it, you will not be able to conduct a proper research or an effective research. So you really need to have a very mature and effective literature review. The third point is to design the study and develop your methodology. So once you have the question in mind, once you know what has been done and how other studies were conducted, you need to develop your own methodology. What is the study design? How are you going to collect the data? Who will you include into your study? What analysis are you going to be doing? And so on. So mainly, you have to put a plan, a huge plan on how are you going to get the answers to the question that you have posed. The fourth part is the writing the research proposal, how to write a research proposal. And it was mentioned in the IRB session that Abir gave you, where you have to submit to the IRB to get an IRB or ethics approval. And to do so, you have to write or prepare a detailed proposal in which you inform this committee, the IRB committee, about what is the question, what is the methodology, why is it important, and so on and so forth. So this is a very important step in the research process. The next step is to worry about funding. And when you talk about funding, you have to take money from a certain funding agency. So we might submit a grant to Farouk Jabr, for example, or the MPP in the School of Medicine, or to the NIH, National Institutes of Health, or LNRCS, CNRS, and so on. So there are so many bodies that give you money to do your research. Nevertheless, you have to provide or submit a detailed proposal. Nobody will give you money for an idea that's in your head. They have to see a proposal, a detailed proposal, a well-written proposal, and this is, again, a very important step in the research process. Once we do that, we also have to get the IRB approval, which we have talked about in details during the first session. For the Faculty of Medicine, yes, of course, but actually, I think Abir mentioned two sets of research committees or ethics committees. One is the Biomedical Research Committee, and the other one is the Social and Behavioral Studies. So both of them are under the American University of Beirut rather than the AUB MC. But the point is, you submit the proposal, they will review it from the ethical point of view, and eventually they grant you approval, or the researcher you are working with. Once we get the approval, we can start working on the data collection through whatever methodology that we have, right? If you have any comment, if you have any question, please raise your hand, okay? So, we collect the data through different methods. Once we do that, the next step will be analyzing the data. What does analyzing the data mean? It means making sense of the data. We have so many numbers, we have to make sure we understand it. We summarize it in graphs, or in numbers, or p-values, or confidence intervals, and so on and so forth, to be able to get an answer to the question that we started with. Finally, we go back to the impact of the study that we have carried out, which is, again, to the literature review that we have carried out. And the last step is to write a paper. So, why did I say all of this? To tell you a simple message. Whatever you guys are going to be doing for the volunteer process that you will be involved in the Faculty of Medicine, you will be doing one of these steps. Whether being involved in writing the proposal, the IRB approval or submission, funding submission, collecting the data, entering the data into the computer, analyzing the data, or making sense of the data, and finally to write a paper. So hopefully what we have done would have covered most of the things that you will be doing. Now what I will do is I will have a few questions for you, and I will ask Aurélie to come and pose these questions for you. And I would like you to prepare your phones to help us get some answers.
Okay, hello. So basically what I'm going to ask you to do is to go onto the website menti.com. And once you have it on your cell phone, just enter the code into the space where you have please enter the code. So basically it's 674130.
Who's using the phone?
So did it switch?
Type. So
Okay.
whoever has it working, that's perfect. If few of you do not have it working, that's fine. The objective is just to have an interaction with you rather than each one of you will be presenting.
Yeah,
Okay?
basically it's working, so people are...
So more people are being connected now.
He just doesn't want to use clickers, okay?
Just want to be different.
Okay, so we're gonna...
Give them more time.
Okay.
So more people are connecting. 43, 46, okay.
Thumbs up, push down, you should do.
Okay, we'll give you 5 more seconds. If you miss this round, you will be able to join the second set of questions that we have for you.
Yeah, I think they're ready.
Okay, we'll stop now.
So we're gonna start with the first question. We would like to know where you think statistics are involved in research. So is it in the research question, in the IRB application, in data collection, the statistical analysis, or in the writing a paper?
And you can enter more
So
than one.
yeah, you can enter more than one.
This is the way this is. It affects others because they will see who's answering more
We can hide it.
and they will start answering.
They are mature
They will be
students.
biased.
They are mature students.
They will be biased.
That's right.
Well, you can do that with the clickers.
Now it's hidden? Now it's hidden. Okay, so we have 61 who have answered, a total of 70, so 3 more to go. We're waiting for you. 3 or 4 more. Yeah, let us see. So, show results. Okay, do we have another question? No. Right? Okay, so 7% only say that research question you have to have statistical expertise. Who have answered this? Actually, they are anonymous. Why? Why do you think it? You're right, actually. You're among the 7% who are right. So, research question, to come up with a research question, you have to have some statistical expertise, but why? بس هيك تشان by chance. Yeah. Go. Such as? Okay. Yes?
But why is this question important?
It is more literature review. Why do you need statistics to do that? Okay. All right. Well, I like the answers. Basically, if you come up with a research question that there is no tool or statistical tool to answer it, would you be able to continue? No. So to come up with a question that's answerable, you have to make sure that I can, whenever I collect the data for this question, to be able to analyze it and come up with an answer. So when you are establishing a new study, a new project, you have to have in your mind that eventually it is statistics which I'm going to be using to come up with an answer. So what about IRB application? Only 9% answered that you have to have statistical expertise. Who said that? Come in? By chance, come in? By chance?
I chose all of them.
John, okay. Right. Anybody else who meant it? Yes.
Because if you are going to convince the IRB with your idea, you have to actually provide proof.
Perfect. So when you want to convince the what is IRB asking for? The IRB is asking for a plan. Do you have a plan? You have a question, you have a certain plan to answer the question, and the statistical analysis is one of the plan steps that you have to do to answer the question. So as an IRB member, I need to see what is your plan for analyzing the data, and that's why in any IRB application, you should have a statistical analysis section, as I will show you in the next few slides. So again, it is you have to have statistical expertise. Data collection, 28%. Well, again, you need to have some statistical expertise to be able to collect data. I usually give a very basic example. If I ask you, I'm interested in measuring the age of a certain patient. How do you measure age of a certain patient? Who can tell me? Ask him what? His age. Give me the specific question. How old are you? Do you want it in years, in months, in days? When were you born? The year and the month? How old are you in the sense of less than 20, 20 to 40, more than 40? So I can tell you, measuring age, which is one of the most basic types of information that you will collect, there are more than 5 or 6 different ways. Sounds good? So to be able to decide how am I going to measure age in this study, I need to understand how am I going to analyze it at the end. Okay? So even when I'm structuring my questions and structuring my questionnaire, I need to have some statistical expertise. So I really need to know some statistics. Statistical analysis, only 32% said that you need statistical expertise. Well, I think you did not select more than one. Each one of you selected one? You can choose more than one. Anyway, of course, statistical expertise, you need statistics to be able to analyze the data. And finally, writing a paper. Why do you need statistics to write a paper? Who can tell me? Yes? Sorry? To do the average? Well, the average and the standard deviation and so on, you do it at the statistical analysis stage. Yes?
Explain what they mean.
Exactly. Exactly. And I usually give another basic example. If I tell you the association between a certain medication and mortality was found to be 3.0 of an hazard ratio with a 95% confidence interval of 1.5 to 4.5 with a p-value of 6.6. Would you be able to interpret it to people? So if you do not understand it, you will not be able to explain it. So again, when you are writing a paper, you are expected to know how to understand some statistics to be able to write a discussion or a conclusion or a result section. So the whole point behind this process is to establish how important statistics is in the whole research process. Do you have any questions? Questions? Okay. So, example from a real research project, I will give you few examples or a few documents to show you about a certain project that we have carried out a few years ago. Okay? So the proposal is the first step that we talked about, and let me show you this proposal. So this is a study that we carried out on the effect of BPA. Who knows what BPA is? Anybody knows what BPA is? Sorry? Something with plastic. What does it stand for? BPA. Sorry? No. Anybody else? It's called bisphenol A. Okay. What is bisphenol A? Bisphenol A is a material that's used in plastic, right? In baby bottles, in the ceilings, for canned food and so on. So it has been used extensively in industrial food packaging and so on. And eventually, like 10, 15 years ago, some studies have been shown that this BPA increases the risk of diabetes and hypertension and cancer and so on and so forth. And nowadays, if you go to the States or Canada or Europe and you would like to buy a bottle, a milk bottle for a baby, most of them are going to be BPA free, meaning it's not being used in these material anymore, right? Now, what we wanted to do is we wanted to study the level of BPA among the Lebanese population. So what we did was we posed this question, and this is the title of the proposal. It's assessment of BPA levels and their association with the health status among the Lebanese population. Now, these are the investigators who did the study, myself being the PI on it. We have 2 people from the nutrition department, Lara Nasruddin and Muhammad Abyad. We have 4 people, endocrinologist, cardiologist, we have geneticist, and we have somebody, Yusuf Mnaimi from the central lab. And we were 8 people who carried out this study. What do you notice on this proposal? The stamp, what does it mean? It has been approved by the IRB, right? So, in other words, you are not supposed to conduct a study or to establish a study or to start doing a study without having the stamp of the IRB, which confirms that it has been reviewed and it is ethical to conduct this study. So, I'm not going to go over the details of this study, but I just want to highlight few things about it. So this is the affiliation of the people doing the study. And then we have the abstract. Of course, you have seen the abstract, and it's a summary of the idea. So a summary of what is known, and this is the literature review. A summary of the objective, what is the aim of the study. The methodology, how are we planning to do the study, and why is it important, then the rationale of the study. So again, we go over the background, and it is a detailed document. I'm going to skip through it. But notice that each page has a stamp of the IRB and the date when it was approved. So, this is the importance in details. I have more than 5 or 6 points of establishing why is it important to do the study. And this is the objective. Do we usually have one objective or multiple objectives? What? Multiple. You're not going to do a big study and end up with only one question being answered. So usually we propose more than one question, but usually we have one primary question and multiple secondary questions. In this case, my primary was to establish the baseline BPA in a certain group of patients or people, and then the secondary is to correlate it with different diseases, to identify different correlates of such associations, such as diet habits and lifestyle. Another one is to assess explorative methylation, and so on. There is the methodology, which includes the study design, the inclusion-exclusion criteria, which is the target population who will be included in the study. I will have the sample size, how many people. This is statistics, by the way, right? Sample size, how do you decide on how many people do you want to include? Statistically. You want to say, I want my study to be powerful enough to detect a certain difference or a certain level of PPA, and then I'll do some analysis. I will tell you, you know what? For this power, you need 376 patients, and this is what you include into your study. So this is another reason why you need statistical expertise to conduct or to write a research proposal. And this is the information that I want to collect. I want to measure the BPA, number one. I want to measure demographic and socioeconomic information. I want to measure lifestyle, and again, medical history, physical exam, diet for food frequency questionnaire. I want to include lab work and so on. And eventually, genetic methylation. And finally, there is the statistical analysis section. No proposal is comprehensive without the statistical analysis section. And in this, I measure or I talk about all the different statistical analyses. Another very important section in a proposal is what? The ethical considerations. How am I going to deal with the data? Confidentiality, anonymity of the patients, and so on and so forth. So I have to establish to the committee that I'm going to be carrying out a study in a very ethical way. And finally, this is the budget, timeline, and these are the references. How would I enter the references? Using which program? The EndNote, right? So let me show you another document, which is the questionnaire. Again, this is a detailed questionnaire that I have used for this specific study, and it goes over the demographic, socioeconomic, I have the lifestyle, the medical history, and so on. I'm not going to spend more time on that, but it's a detailed questionnaire. It's very important not to use the questionnaire unless it is stamped by the IRB. Okay? So, in any of the audits that the IRB do on researchers who are carrying out research, okay, if they find data collected on non-stamped or unstamped questionnaires, all of these questionnaires will be withdrawn and shredded. So if you are part of a group who is doing a research project, make sure you insist on using the questionnaire that's stamped by the IRB. IRB approval, I'm just going to show you the letter that I received from the IRB that tells me it is approved. It says here, on September 9, 2013, the IRB reviewed the following proposal, and the documents that they reviewed were the following, and eventually this is to grant you approval to the study, which is ending May 13, 2014. So they give me an approval for 1 year. And after 1 year, I have to submit a renewal application. There is a consent form that I usually use because I'm asking people to give me blood and urine, and I want to ask them to come back in a few years and so on. I need to make sure that they understand what they are doing. So I give them a detailed consent form for them to read it and then sign on it, telling me that they agree on this project. And eventually there's a place where they sign, and even there's a witness to the signature that they do. Finally, I'm just going to show you, I'm not sure if it will open. Yes, it will open. This is my EndNote library that Dr. Taba talked about last week. And it is a very helpful program. I think it's a magical program. Whenever you start working on proposals or papers or helping people out, make sure you are familiar with this program because it makes life much easier, and I'm not going to talk more about that. So I'll go back to the questions, and I'll ask Aurélie to come and have fun with you for 2 minutes. Present.
So if you're still on the last page of the last set of questions, you can go and click on vote on another question, and so you'll have the option to enter the new code, which is 131149. For those who are not here, you have to go to menti.com and enter the code on the main page, and the code is 131149. So the question is,
we need a comprehensive, I think.
Which program do we use for data entry?
You can select more than one, by the way. Please do that. No. So 43 have answered. Okay, I think almost all of you have finished. 79, 81. Okay. I'm really interested to see who is going to enter data in Paint. And unless you have an artistic background to really enter data using Paint. Hassan? With camera. Okay, so the majority say that 81% say that Excel is used to enter data. We all understand what data entry is, right? Data entry is when I collect information from people, patients, subjects, students, whatever, and I want to transform the data from the paper into the computer to be able to analyze it, okay? So 81% of you guys say that you can use Microsoft Excel, and I think you are right. Excel is one of the main programs used to enter data. Great. 34%. What is Microsoft Access, by the way? Anybody can tell me what's Access? It's a database. Yeah. So what's the difference between Access and Excel? Well, Excel is a primitive program for data entry. It's a spreadsheet. You can enter data into it, and you can do some equations and so on and so forth, but it has a lot of limitations. Access is an advanced version of Excel where you can do forms, you can do queries, you can transform from one sheet to another, and it's much more advanced. Nevertheless, it needs some expertise to be able to develop it. 66% say SPSS. So who knows what SPSS is? I think we have a question to you, for you on that, but 27% paint, I would take it as a mistake. You just didn't know what you were clicking. Yes? Yeah, in 1 second. Aurelie? So what does SPSS stand for? You can use the same thing, and you can select more than one. You can select, لا sorry, one. لا لا لا, one.
Can't be more than one.
I mean, minimum. Next is what? I think illustration, how to enter data. Okay, 82 have, wow. Okay, so 83 have answered. I think we'll stop it now. Well, statistical prepared software for sciences. I have no idea what this is. So you see, you can't count on the most frequent answer. Exactly. Type, statistical program and support services, definitely لا, ما فيها support. Statistical program for social sciences. These are very close to each other. The only thing that differs is the package or the program. And this is definitely prepared for what? Software for sciences? No. So the answer is this. It's basically statistical package for social sciences. And it is SPSS. So why do we use SPSS? What is it? No, it's not a website. It's a program.
It's like a program where you can put in statistic or algorithms, statistic algorithms that you want to use, and it processes them and gives you the.
Wonderful. So how is it different from Excel?
You can choose which algorithm you like.
Okay.
You can choose like more complicated ones to use.
All right. So what is Excel? It's a spreadsheet. Is it a statistical program? No. Can you get average and standard deviation using Excel? Yes. But it's not that easy. Why? Because you have to go and select the data and go write the equation or whatever, right? So SPSS, on the contrary, is a statistical package. So if I want to do standard deviation, it's a click of a button. If I want to do linear regression, which is a more advanced statistical analysis, again, it's a click of a button. So SPSS, what's nice about it is that you can enter data into it, you can clean data, you can manage data, and you can analyze data, and you can even get some graphics from this program. What we will be doing is to, anybody has any expertise in SPSS? Anybody has used it? Okay, perfect, impressive, very good. So I think it's a very important program if you are planning to have a career in research, or if you are planning to go into graduate studies. If you are planning to do a master's or a PhD, you definitely need SPSS. And if you are planning to go into med school, also, being a medical student or a resident or an attending in the future, you have to have some research productivity, and SPSS will boost your chances of doing research. Yes?
The statistics we're using R Studio with SPSS.
R, it's more advanced than SPSS. That's fine. There are so many programs. There is SPSS, Stata, Statistica, SAS. There are so many programs that do the same thing. So we finished with questions. Now I would like to tell you about the main ingredient of any statistical analyses. It boils down to two types of variables or few types of variables. Now, whenever you talk to a researcher, epidemiologist, statistician, they talk a lot about variables. So what is a variable? A variable is anything that varies, such as age, such as gender, education, blood pressure, body mass index, and so on. So every time you record something on a patient or a subject, it's called a variable. So there are multiple types of variables. One of them is continuous. What is an example of a continuous variable? Age. If I tell you how old are you and you answer 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, there's continuity in the answers, right? Am I right? Wonderful. So this is called continuous. The same thing, body mass index, systolic blood pressure, satisfaction, quality of life, you name it. Another one is called categorical but dichotomous. What does categorical mean? It means that the subject falls in one category. If I tell you what's your gender, you tell me I'm a male or a female. So either a male or a female. So it's not continuous anymore, it's categorical. Now, why is it called dichotomous? Because there's only either male or female. Sounds good? Guys, if you have a question, ask me. So, a third type is categorical, which is nominal, such as level of education. I tell you, are you illiterate, elementary, secondary, university, or higher education? So it is categorical because each one of you will fall in one of these 5 categories, right? But it's not only 2 options. There are more than 2 options, and it's called nominal. I have a string. What does string mean? It means that any piece of information that has no value. You might ask me, well, gender, male, female has no value. But there is a concept in statistics which is the coding. So although I don't have anything that, if I say a male does not mean anything statistically, but what do I say? I'll give it a number, 1. So if a person is a male, he will be 1. If a person is a female, she will be 2. So it means that I'm coding these answers. Sounds good? There are some information that does not make sense to code them, such as if I ask you what's your name, I'm not going to say if you are XY, you're going to be number 1. So there are some information that has no meaning to be coded or to be entered or to be analyzed statistically, and we call it strings, such as your email, your phone number, your name, any comments of the physician. Okay? These are all strings. And finally, the last one is the date. Date of birth, date of admission, date of discharge, date of whatever. And all of these are examples. Now, what we will do in the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes actually, we're going to show you how do we structure a database in SPSS. Who has never seen SPSS before, the program? Who has never seen it? Okay, today you'll have the privilege of seeing SPSS. Okay, هتتعرفوا عليه. So, SPSS is a program that's very similar to Excel, but there are some specific differences. The objective behind this 5 minutes or 10 minutes is not for you, empty one. Okay. So, the objective is not for you to be able to do a structure in SPSS, rather than for you to just be familiar with the layout of SPSS. Okay? So, Aurélie will take over.
Okay, so this is the SPSS. The first thing to note is that you have 2 sheets, which is, one is the data view and one is the variable view. So basically you got all the questionnaires filled by the participants, and you want to enter those answers into SPSS to be able to analyze. So in the variable view, you enter, this is where you put all the variables that you collected. So if you, in the questionnaire you have the age, you have the gender, you have the medication intake, you enter here each one of the variables. So I'm going to put age. Then I'm going to stick to the examples that we had before. So I'm going to put the gender.
So basically what we're doing, sorry Aurélie, so what we're doing here, we're identifying the variables that I want to enter. So you see the questionnaire, the big questionnaire that we had. In Excel, how did you used to do it? In the first row, you put age, gender, and so on, right? Which is not very accurate. Why? Because the first row is a patient's row, but I use it for the names of the variables. So in SPSS, there's a place where I can structure my variables, and then I will be able to see it. So in this, what Aurélie is doing is giving you an example of the 5 different types of variables that we have. One of them is continuous, which is age, gender, physical activity, the name, and the date of birth.
So just one thing, if I do this here, physical activity, okay, I just want you to notice something that works in almost all the programs. So this is a variable name, so if I put enter, SPSS won't take it. Because SPSS would not take a variable name with a space in it. So basically you always have to use underscores. Fine? So I'm going to put it as a physical activity. So these are the names of my variables. Now if I want to explain what is each of these variables, so I put it in the label. So the label here I put, for example, age at admission. So I'm explaining. PA stands for physical activity, so I put here physical activity. Here is the medication name. And DOB for date of birth, so I put date of birth. Now, as Dr. Tamim mentioned before, we have different types of variables. So basically, any variable that you are going to analyze has to be numeric. So this is why in the type, even though you would think that gender is not a numeric variable, it should be a string variable because it's male and females, we are going to enter it into SPSS as numbers 1 and 2, so it's going to have numeric as a type. Physical activity is same. Here, for example, medication name, we're not going to analyze it, it's going to be a string variable, so we're going to change it and put it as string. The date of birth, we're not going to analyze it. Eventually, we're going to use it. If, for example, you had the date of admission and the date of birth, you would use both to compute the age of the participant. So all dates, you enter them as a date variable type. So here you choose the way you want to enter this information. I'm going to take an easy one, which is this one. So mm/dd/year. Okay, now for example, what else do I need to tell you here? So for example, I had the first participant in the questionnaire. His age was 23. He was a male. He was very physically active, and he was taking, I don't know, what was he taking?
Panadol.
Panadol.
Okay, let me ask you something. You see this data view, right? It's exactly what you see in Excel. But you have the variable view to be able to structure your variables so that the variable names are here. You see them? Right? In Excel, you would have used this row for the variable names. Am I right? Okay, so now the first patient or the first row is a real patient, and so on.
Okay, and the date of birth, I enter it the way I entered the type. So I'm going to put 0202, 09. Okay? Now, to have a better format, if I don't want the decimals, for example, in gender, I don't want 1.00, I just want 1. So here in the decimals, I adjusted and I put 0 decimals. Now, if I want to know 1 stands for what and 2 stands for what, so I want to know my coding, what does my coding mean? I do it in the values here. So I click here, I put 1 in the value, and I label it as male. Then I put 2 and I label it as female. So now, if I go back to my data view, so we see it as 1, and if I want to see the values, I can click here. This button will show me what was my coding. Okay? So if now physical activity, I can do the same. I can put in the values 1 as low, 2 as moderate, 3 as high. I'm going to remove all these decimals that I don't need. Okay, I'm gonna go to the data field, and so I can know that the physical activity level of the first observation was high. And then we do this for all the patients. So basically, we enter all the data.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so this is the process of structuring a database and entering the data. Easy? Yes? Any question? Any question? Yes. Sorry? Yeah. Label the numbers? Exactly, I can tell you, we can create a variable that says pain score. If I ask the patient, on a scale from 1 to 10, give me your pain score, and I will leave it as this. You go to the variable view, and then I will say the first patient had a 7, or an 8, or a 9, or a 5, or a 2. I don't label it, no, because I'm going to deal with it as a number itself. Okay? Any other question? Yes?
Where do we get the results?
I didn't show you the results yet. Up till now, we just structure the database and enter the data into the computer.
Yeah,
So,
I just show them a
descriptive. Okay. So let me show you let me go to back to the presentation. So now we reach a place where I want to talk about the statistical analysis. So we have collected data, we have entered it into SPSS, and now I want to start analyzing the data. So there are 3 levels of data analysis. One is univariate, one is bivariate, and one is multivariate. What do you think univariate is? One variable, right? So as if I'm asking you, what is the age of patients in the study? Or what is the gender distribution? Or what is the weight or height or body mass index, and so on. So this is univariate. What is bivariate? 2 variables. Why do I need to do 2 variables? To compare. So are males more physically active as compared to females? Or are, I don't know, smokers, do they have higher blood pressure as compared to non-smokers? Or whatever. Okay, sounds good? So I'm linking 2 variables with each other. And between the univariate and multivariate, I would say 90% of papers or articles or clinical research published in the literature have one or both of these 2 types of analyses. All right? The third one is called multivariate. What is a multivariate? Multiple variables. Why do I need multiple variables? One might affect the other. So let us take an example. For the bivariate, we have the p-value, or actually, you know what, univariate. Univariate, we said that we have categorical and continuous variables. How do I describe a categorical variable? I report it by number and percent. I never report it only by number or only by percent, and you will see in a minute. And in graphical representation, I represent it by bar or pi. Who has taken a math course or a statistics course? Wow. Okay. Sorry?
It's a requirement for a major.
It is a requirement? Okay, good. So this is basic to you. This is basic for you, right? Okay, good. So continuous variable, we can do it by mean standard deviation. We can do it by interquartile range. Who knows what interquartile range is? Wonderful. Graphical representation by a histogram or a box plot. Sounds good? هعطيكم شيء صعب طولوا بالكم. Don't. So, who knows what the p-value is? Forgot, try to remember. P-value, what is a p-value? Probability of what? Of the? But I do it for bivariate. Yes? It's due to chance. What is due to chance? The variation, the what? The null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Okay. Anybody does not understand anything of what we're saying? Mean. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. the p-value actually, most probably you'll take it in one of the courses, but I'm trying to oversimplify it and just give you the bottom line of what a p-value is. I'm not going to tell you how to calculate it and so on and so forth. I just want to tell you how do we interpret it. So p-value is a probability, and you know what probability is. It is indicating statistical significance. What does statistical significance mean? What does significant mean? The term significant, what does it mean? English-wise. No, significant. Important. Significant is important. So I'm telling you, is this important or not? What is important in the sense of research? So let me ask you a question. If I tell you males are more diabetic than females, okay? Are you going to be happy about it? You need some numbers, right? If I tell you if you're a male, you're 20%, you have 20% chance of being diabetic. And if you are a female, you are 19% chance of being diabetic. Is it an important difference? No, it's 1% difference. It is not important, or it is not significant, right? But the reason why I do this significance is to indicate whether the difference is important from a statistical point of view or not. Okay? Now, if I tell you 20% males, 10% females, is it important? Yeah, it's a 10% difference. So it is an important difference. So what is the less than 0.05? Less than 0.05 means a probability of this difference that I have is due to chance. Anyway, if it is less than 5% or 0.05, it means the difference is statistically significant. If it is more than 0.05, it means that the difference is not statistically significant. This is all what I need you to know from the p-value at this level. Now, confidence interval, it has usually two values, which is, most of the times we do it as 95%. And it is saying that I'm 95% confident that the true difference is between this and that value. I'm not going to go in details about it. I'm just going to explore the p-value. Now, have you ever heard of the t-test? Yes, chi-square? Yes. When do you use a chi-square? When do you use a chi-square? Those who have taken this the math course. It's categorical. Okay. So, look at this. If I have one variable and another variable, one of them is 2 levels, another is 2 levels, such as male, female, diabetics, non-diabetics. A lot, yeah. كل هيدا صار? Okay. So 2 levels, male, female, diabetics, yes, no. What is the test that I use to calculate the p-value? It's called chi-square. Sounds good? Everybody agrees? You have to agree. Yes. Okay? Now, if it is more than 2 levels, such as physical activity, low, medium, and high, and 2 levels being hypertensive, non-hypertensive, also chi-square. And the same thing if it is 2 levels and more than 2 levels, or more than 2 levels and more than 2 levels. So all of these, whenever I'm dealing with categorical variables, I use a test called chi-square, which will give me a p-value. Now, what if one variable is 2 levels, the other is continuous? Such as, I tell you, males and females, systolic blood pressure for males is 130, for females is 140. Is it important difference? Yes or no? Well, if you tell me yes without any statistical background, it is called clinical significance. So because 10 units on a systolic blood pressure is important from a clinical point of view, you say it's clinically significant. Nevertheless, for this, what do I indicate? I indicate statistical significance. Okay? How do I get the p-value? By a test called t-test. So when I have one categorical, one continuous, what test do I use? T-test. And the rest are correlation and so on and so forth. The multivariate, I'm going to skip the multivariate. I'm not going to talk about it. This is an example of a paper that we have written using the BPA data that we have. This is table 1. If you look at age, which is what? A continuous variable. How do I report it? Average and standard deviation. 39 years old was the average age of our patients, and 15 or 14 years is the standard deviation of our patients. Now, what about smoking status, non-smoker or smoker? We have the number and percent, number and percent, and number and percent. Now, if I want to compare the average between those with metabolic syndrome and those without metabolic syndrome, what do I do? What test do I use? Who can tell me? The question was, I'm checking whether the average age is different between these two groups. Here it was found 43 years, here it was found 37 years. What test? T-test, wonderful. What is the p-value? 1.94 times 10 to the power minus 4, which is less than 0.05, right? So is there any significant difference? Yes, we said that below 0.05, it means there is significant difference. Bravo, Alik. So this is the average. What about the smoking? If I tell you, I have 29% or current smoker, 71% here smokers, and 64% smokers. What is the difference? How many percent? 7% difference. Is it important statistically? What is the p-value? 0.888. Is it significant? No. Okay, again, less than 0.05, significant. More than 0.05, not significant. Okay? If the p-value is less than 0.05. We said that the p-value is the probability. If it is very small, it is significant. In this case, it was very small, it is significant. In this case, it's more than 5% or 0.05, it's not significant. How did I calculate this p-value? What's the test? Chi-square, exactly. Now, this is for the multivariate, which I will not cover. And again, I have few questions for you. We're almost done. We need 10-15 minutes. Really? Okay, again, go on your phones.
So again, I'd like to know how many of you have ever done analysis of SPSS before. So.
And the code is 923981. Can you hide it? So 40. خلصنا بس بعد في عنا illustration والأسئلة.
So I'm going to do a countdown.
Yeah.
10 seconds. Too close. That's the vote.
The illustration, make it very fast, guys. Quality test plus. Okay. Number percent. Okay. So 84% of you have never done analysis on SPSS, and 16% did. So what's the next question already, please? Do you think it's complicated? Okay, خلاص stop. Stop. Okay, let us see the results. Okay, wow. 80% say that it is not complicated. So if I give you a SPSS now, would you be able to do some analysis? You will? Definitely? Good. Then, what Aurélie will do in 5 minutes, she will show you how to get number percent mean standard deviation, t-test and chi-square, and 2 graphs. Again, the objective is not for you to be able to do it as much as you see how easy it is to be done. So this is a data set specifically for the BPA data that we have. Aurélie, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to go very quickly. SPSS is very friendly, so basically you can guess that when you want to do any analysis, you have to go into analyze. So we're going to go into descriptive statistics and frequencies. And I want to know how many males and how many females I have in my sample. So I'm going to put the demogender variable. I'm going to select it. And I'm going to go into the statistics, and I will... Actually, I'm going to go with the continuous variable first. I'm going to choose the age. I want to check the mean and the standard deviation of my age variable in my sample. So I'm going to go and check the mean and the standard deviation. Okay, I'm going to go into continue. Actually, you can put as many variables as you want. Okay, just in one step to get many statistics together. Okay. So if I do this, so I have the age, the glucose, and the HbA1c. I have the mean for the age, which is 45.2, and the standard deviation is 14.8. Okay, and same for. Sorry.
5.82. 5.82 is the average HbA1c. 62 is the number of
people. So you have
people.
the N, which is the number of observation we have in this sample. So my data set is composed of 62 observations. And we have one missing information about age. Okay.
One thing that's really interesting about SPSS, in Excel, if you do an average, where does it put it for you? On top of the data. If you do a graph on top of the data, right? So what's nice about SPSS is that it opens a new window for you. So anything you do will be pasted in a separate window, which will make it easier for you to manipulate and work with. Yes?
Can you do like something like a mean of the data we entered, but only for sample means?
Yes, we can do. We can do that, but it's not complicated. But for now, I'm not going to show it to you. But yes, you can restrict your analysis to anything you want. And it's very easy.
So that was for a continuous variable. I'm going to go for a categorical variable. I'm going to go into analyze, descriptive statistics, and descriptives.
No, categorical frequencies.
Frequencies?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to delete all of this.
Reset.
Then I'm going to go into gender. And I'm going to click on OK. So I'm going to have the frequency distribution. Okay, how many males, how many females. So I have 21 males. As a percentage, it means that I have 33.9% of my sample are males. And females, I have 39 females, so it's 62.9% of my sample are females. Okay, I'm going to go into the bivariate analysis. So I'm going to see if I have more diabetic, if males are more diabetic than females, for example. So I'm going to do two categorical variables together. So I go again into analyze, descriptive statistics.
So what are the two variables? What are the two variables? Gender and diabetes. They are both categorical. So what's the test that we want to do? Chi-square.
So I'm going to go into cross-tabs. Okay, I'm going to put my gender variable in the rows, and I'm going to check the diabetes. Okay. Now, to get really the information that I want, I can go here, I click on cells, and I choose the column percents, okay? Voilà. And I click on to continue, and to get my statistics, I click on statistics and I choose the chi-square. So what I got is that Among the non-diabetics, I have 36.5% are males, and among the diabetics, I have 25% of males. Do we have a statistically significant difference? We check the chi-square, the Pearson chi-square, and the p-value is 0.52, which is higher than 0.05.
Okay.
So we don't have a statistically significant difference. So I'm going to do now
T-test.
a t-test.
So the last test that we will show you is the t-test. And again, this is just to give you an idea about how easy it is to do the data, to do the analysis. But I will reflect on this in a few minutes once Aurélie is done.
Okay, so I'm going to compare the systolic blood pressure between the males and the females. So I'm going to check, I'm going to go into analyze, and I'm going to compare the mean blood pressure among the males and the mean blood pressure among the females. So compare means. These are two independent sample t-tests. So the test variable is the systolic blood pressure. I'm comparing the systolic blood pressure. Okay, and I'm comparing it between males and females. So I'm going to take the gender variable. And here I have to define the group. So my first group, here we have to pay attention to put the values that we gave to males and females. So we gave 1 for males and 2 for females. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay.
So what is the p-value without going in detail?
So the p-value here.
It's going to be this. 0.023. Is there any significant difference? Why? Less than 0.05. So there is a significant difference between both groups. Okay? Anything else you want to show them?
I think.
Do you have any question about SPSS? Would you like to see anything specifically being done? Okay. So let me go forward. This is one of the last slides, and then we have a few questions for you, and we will conclude the session. Basically, I need you to be focusing with me for a few minutes, please. So this is the research process, starting from proposal writing, IRB application, data collection, entry, data cleaning, data management, analysis, writing, and submission of the paper. Okay? So you as volunteers, when you submit your profile for MRVP to be matched to one of the researchers, most likely the researcher you will be matched with would have some requests about one of these steps. Okay? Each of these steps are important in the research process, right? Now, the expertise that usually we look for in people who help or work with us on research are definitely English writing, right? But I would assume all of you are good English speaking or writing. And this English writing skills will come handy in the proposal writing, the IRB application, the writing, and the submission. Okay? So in this series of sessions that we have given you, we did not touch on this. The ethics will be involved in the proposal writing, in the IRB, in the data collection, entry, cleaning, management, and all of them, because whatever step that you will be doing, you have to understand the ethical conduct of research. And we have given you the first session with Abid from the IRB. Okay? The next one is the literature review, which is very important, and it will be helpful in the proposal writing, the IRB, the writing of the manuscript, and submitting the manuscript. And again, you have taken a session by Aida Farha. Another thing is the endnote, which will make your life much easier in these two and in these two. And Dr. Tabba gave you this session. SPSS and statistics, we brushed on it today, and this will be very important in the proposal writing, the IRB data collection, and so on, all the way to the submission. And the publication process is here. Now, your chances of getting matched to an investigator will be much better if you have more expertise of these. So if you come to me and you tell me, I have worked on SPSS, or I know how to work on EndNote, or I know how to do some basic statistical analyses, I will be much more happy to take you as a volunteer in my group. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean if you do not have these expertise, you do not have good chances of being matched. Because a lot of tasks that are requested from you as volunteers are very important. One very important task is the data entry. You saw how easy it is to analyze data by doing all the numbers. It would have never been possible without the continuous work of people who did the data entry, right? In the study that I did on the BPA, I had more than 13 or 14 volunteers. It was among the very first few projects that we took volunteers in. Those who helped me in this study now are MET 3 or MET 4. And they really worked very hard on interviewing the patients, on collecting the data, on doing the blood analysis, on doing the data entry, and on cleaning the data. So they had major contribution in almost all the steps here. And without them, this study would have never been conducted. And so far from this study, we have more than 6 or 7 papers, and maybe 3 or 4 being reviewed for publications. So what I'm highlighting here is, no matter what, you are still students. You are learning. So whether learning how to enter data, or to do a literature review, or to collect data, or to write a proposal, it's all experience that you are taking, which will shape your career in the future. So this is what we have. We have a few more questions to ask you, but before we ask you the question, I would like to see if any one of you has any question. Questions about the process, about the different sessions, recommendations, comments, feedback? Okay. Yeah. So we have maybe 5 more questions, and then we will be done. Yeah. Make sure you hide it.
So the code is 402803.
Okay, we have another question. So on a scale of 1, least helpful, to 10, most helpful, please rate all sessions, the first one, second one, third one, and fourth one, and all sessions. And this is going to serve, just to remind you, this is the first time we give these sessions, and we're going to be using this evaluation to enhance or to make future sessions hopefully better. So your feedback is very much appreciated. And it is anonymous, of course, so we will not know who's answering what. The answer is not hidden. Results are hidden. Okay. So 33, 35. Bad. No, 48. I think they'll reach 65. More people? Okay, we still have one more question, and it says, what would you change in these sessions, or any feedback that you have? You can write down your comment, you can type it, submit it, and then we will be closing the session. Thank you very much.
Okay guys, so while you are entering your feedback, it's going to take us some time till we prepare all the certificates, but eventually you will be receiving emails from us to tell you when and where to pick up the certificates. We are going to list on the certificate how many sessions, the individual sessions that you have attended. They will be signed by Dr. Tamim and myself. And again, you will be informed when to pick them up. And the next MRVP call is going to be as of May. So you will be receiving emails from me through the student officer. For FAS, for instance, Layla Neo, for FHS, Aman, Qassis, and so on. And so we will be telling you when you can fill or update your profile. The faculty members will be also filling their projects or updating their projects based on your interest and their interest and the kind of tasks that they want. We will be matching. That will be for the summer. So every year we have 2 MRVP calls, the summer MRVP call and the academic year MRVP call. And at the end of your sophomore year, you will be able to participate. The majority of you are sophomores, so as of this summer, you will be able to participate in MRVP. With that, I thank you so much for your participation, and يعطيكم العافية.